Hello everybody, this is Chief Paul Rickard of the Town of Mount Hope Police. Welcome you to the February edition of Coffee with the Chief. And we are at the Otisville Mart on Sanitarium Avenue in Otisville. So if you want to come down, we're going to be here for a little bit. And if not, you can send us questions on Facebook Live and we'll try to answer them. So this is Teen Dating Violence Month. And we thought that it would be great to bring someone in that could maybe talk a little bit about that. That's a very important topic. And we were lucky to be able to get from Fearless, which was formerly known as Safe Homes, Zoey Mahan, and she joins me today. So if you want to, again, send us a question on Facebook or come down and join us. A lot of people are coming and going. That's what the dinging in the background is, and hopefully you can hear over that. So why don't you introduce yourself, Zoey?
Sure. As you said, my name is Zoey. I'm from Fearless, Hudson Valley. I'm the Education Program Manager with Fearless, and I'm here to talk about Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
You just recently changed your name, or you didn't, but the organization changed its name. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about the reason behind the change so people aren't confused? Because I'm like Fearless, and then it takes a second.
Sure. I think for a long while we're going to be saying Fearless, formerly known as Safe Homes, to kind of connect those dots. But we wanted a name that was a little bit more broad so we could broaden our mission. Safe Homes was very specific to domestic violence, and we wanted to send a message that we were ending all violence and all oppression in all its forms, and send a message of how we were going to work for our clients as advocates, and we were going to work fearlessly for the people that we serve.
Gotcha.
We went out into the community and we asked people, what do you think of when you hear Safe Homes? And they thought it was either a home security system, which we weren't, or there was this misconception that people had to access our shelter in order to receive other services, and that isn't true. So we wanted to break that misconception. Actually, we only have 17 beds in our shelter, so that's actually our least used service. So we wanted to really broaden our horizons.
And how's it going so far?
So far it's going well. We think it's being well received. It takes a long time to really disseminate that message that we've changed our name, but we're out there and we're doing it.
Well, that's great. So we'll get right into teen violence.
Sure.
And so this is Teen Violence Dating Month awareness, right?
Yes.
So why do we have to be aware of? I mean, something, I'll be honest, like when we were talking about it at the office, it's something that you just generally don't think about.
Sure.
How much of it really occurs, and why do we have to be aware of it?
Sure. I think teen dating violence occurs much more than we're aware of. There are statistics, but really what's more important is thinking about what are the reasons that teens wouldn't report intimate partner violence, and there are a lot of them. Teens don't have the education to recognize the signs. Sometimes they're in denial. They don't realize that they're in abusive relationships. They're afraid of not being believed. They could be afraid of retaliation. They're afraid that somebody might call CPS. They might be removed from their home. They're afraid of retaliation from their intimate partner. So there are a lot of reasons why teens don't report intimate partner violence. And so even the statistics we have, we feel like are really underreported. But we do know that 1 in 3 adolescents in the U.S. has experienced some form of intimate partner violence in the last year, whether that's physical, verbal, or sexual abuse. And we see much higher rates of suicide attempts in teens who have experienced intimate partner violence than in teens who haven't. So it's really serious.
When we're talking about this, we're talking about teenagers 13 to 19. What is that the spectrum that wide, and where is most of it, do you think, where is it occurring?
That's a great question, and we actually know that girls and young women between ages 16 to 24 are experiencing the highest rates of intimate partner violence. That's actually almost triple the national average just for that age group between 16 and 24.
What are some of the signs? So for me as a parent, what can I look for?
Sure.
To try to identify that there's a problem?
There are lots of red flags for sure. I would say if your child is isolating themselves, they're not spending as much time with family, not as much time with friends. Their attitude is different. You're noticing signs of depression. If you're noticing that your child's partner is texting or calling them over and over again, and that your child feels pressure to respond right away, or they're fearful of what will happen if they don't respond to those messages right away. You notice that your child is very anxious around or even without the presence of their partner. They start to dress differently. You notice unexplained marks or bruises on your child.
So a lot of it's actually similar to abuse at any age,
It is,
right?
it is.
Including up to elder abuse, right? So
Absolutely.
we're looking at the same kind of things. So we're in the digital age. You touched on the texting. Do we see a lot of digital abuse, dating abuse, I guess?
We absolutely do, and especially with teens, digital abuse is very common. And sometimes teens don't even know that it's happening. Digital abuse can look like going through your partner's phone without their permission, or texting somebody posing as their partner, posting things on the internet like revenge porn can be digital abuse, or using apps like Life360 or Snapchat that have GPS tracking to track your partner's location, and you can stalk your partner with these apps. You can start showing up where they are, start kind of to check on where they are, maybe who they're with. We also are noticing there's an app, a social media app that teens are using called TikTok that actually is very dangerous. There are no security settings on TikTok, and so we're actually talking a lot with our teens about that app and how
I've never heard of TikTok, so I must be doing something wrong.
I had never heard of it before like a month ago. TikTok is an app where teens can like take short videos of themselves and they can post them. And it's similar to Instagram. There's like a feed of these videos, but where it differs from say Facebook or Instagram, there's no way to friend someone or follow someone. So you're just viewing anyone's videos, and there's no way to block it. So if I had a TikTok account, there would be no way for me to know if you were viewing my videos, right?
Yeah.
So there's no security settings on how to monitor who's watching your videos. So then if you're videoing yourself, like walking to your house or walking through your house, in your bedroom, in your home, then somebody 100 miles away can watch these videos and figure out where you live or figure out the layout of your house. So that's something that we're really trying to bring awareness to with our teens.
You know, I find it interesting when people, we talk about people going through phones and stuff. I've never, like, gone through my wife's phone, nor has she ever gone through my phone. You know, if she has a problem, she'll say, hey, my phone's not working, can you do something? And I'll be like, well, what's your code? Like, I don't even know her code. Like,
Sure.
I have enough time managing my own phone, let alone somebody else's phone. So I just find it interesting that people would give up their phones to somebody and let them go through it. Like, I just think,
Well,
like, and I know there's a lot of reasons behind
I
that.
think it's all about the communication within the partnership, right? Like maybe your boundary with your wife is I don't really want to go through your phone and I don't want you to go through mine. And maybe with me and my partner, it's okay that we have each other's codes. And
Right.
like he can be driving and he'll ask me, hey, can you text my mom back? And I have that
Right.
code and I can go
Sure.
and text it.
Yeah.
But I think it's all about the boundaries that you establish in your relationship. There are some people who say, you don't touch my phone, this is my privacy, this is my private
Yeah.
property, and that's not something I'm comfortable with. And then there are people who are like, fine, I'm an open book and you can have my phone and do whatever.
Well, I'm an open book. I just don't, and as she is, but we just don't, like,
Yeah.
I just don't have time to go through other people's phones. Like, my phone's a mess, you know. Marie, who's filming here, she's like always trying to clean up my computer, and she's like, oh my God, your thing is a mess. I'm like, I know, I can really, you know. So anyway, so those are good signs
Sure.
to try to look for some of these things. Is this just exclusive to teen girls and young women, or do we have abuse of boys and young men?
That's a great question. And I think like we as an agency, we as a society, we tend to say men as abusers and women as victims, but that's not always the case. The reason that we use that language and we use those examples is because of who's reporting, and it's because of the information and the statistics that we have. But
Sure.
absolutely, women can be abusers and men can be victims. And And we're also leaving LGBTQ relationships out of that conversation. There is abuse happening in same-sex couples.
So you're going around talking about this probably all the time, but specifically this month. So your presentations are more geared for everybody. You're not gearing it towards one or the other. You're just anybody is out there.
Absolutely. Our presentations are all about prevention and not about like specific examples. We give different scenarios, but we make it as general as possible so everybody can benefit from our education.
So and I'm going off script a little bit, so if somebody's watching and they're with an agency or with an organization in Mount Hope or anywhere, and they would like to have you come and speak, or someone from your agency come and speak, is that something that you guys do? You would go to anywhere and
Absolutely.
speak for the most part?
Absolutely. So as I said, I'm our education manager, and we have community educators at our agency who go out into adult and community spaces all the time, and we can do presentations on domestic violence, teen dating violence, consent, gender expectations, human trafficking, sex trafficking,
great.
a whole host of topics. So we do that all the time. People can call our hotline and ask to speak to somebody on the education team.
Cool, that's great. So as a parent, how do we approach our teen or our post-teen a little bit,
Sure.
son or daughter, if we suspect they're in an abusive relationship? What's the right way to go about that?
Approach with empathy and concern, just with zero pressure. Oftentimes we see parents going to their teens saying, like, I don't like this person, I don't like what they're doing, and I have these concerns and you need to leave. And really some of our advice is approaching the teen and not saying, I don't like this person, but making it more about, I don't like what this relationship looks like, I don't like the way that they're making me feel, and I just have some concerns that I would like to talk about. So really coming in with an open mind and being prepared with resources. You can always give somebody our hotline and we can connect them, but not going in with any expectations and being very, very kind with approaching that situation.
What if we think our teen, our son or daughter is being abusive? Like, do you see that as well, where we're like, hey, that's kind of weird how you're behaving towards this person? Is that, like, how would we approach something like that?
I think going to talk to your teen about what a healthy relationship looks like, asking them about behaviors that may be red flags or concerning to you, asking maybe what their reason was for doing whatever that behavior was, and exploring the context around what happened, and just expressing, well, this doesn't look like a healthy relationship to me, and really talking to that person.
So a teen comes to you, reaches out for you guys. What kind of resources, what can you do to help them?
Sure. So our resources for teens are very similar to our resources for adults, and we don't discriminate to anybody who comes to our door. We can help people access safety, whatever that looks like for them. We have advocates that can file for an order of protection. We do have a shelter that we can accept youth and adults into and families into. And if they can't come to our shelter, we will help them find another shelter in our area or around the state.
Gotcha. So if I'm a teen in an abusive relationship, no one's recognized it, I think it is, can they call you and just say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing? Is this abusive, or do you really have to have something more concrete?
Absolutely, they can call us with that question. The first thing we do with people who are calling to be new clients is we do an assessment. We ask them questions about their relationship. How did you meet, and what was the evolution of your relationship, and what was the thing that made you call us today? Like, what was an incident? What happened? Why you're calling? So we will absolutely do an assessment with a person to explore whether or not that relationship is abusive. And I recommend, if they have questions, that they do call us.
Do you see, I mean, just thinking out loud, but do you see that where someone calls and maybe it doesn't on the spectrum seem like abusive but to them it's abusive? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you have those kind of cases, and what would you do for someone like that?
Sure. So we do have people who call and they may be in a toxic relationship or an unhealthy relationship, but they're not necessarily experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence. And what we would do is we would still work with them on accessing safety, but we would refer them to other agencies that could better help them depending on what their needs were. We wouldn't turned them away. We would still work with them, but that does happen. Sometimes people are in bad relationships and they still need help getting out, but it's not necessarily domestic violence.
So you have a summit coming up, the
We
Love
do.
Shouldn't Hurt Youth Summit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. March 19th at the Mount St. Mary College in Newburgh, we have a Love Shouldn't Hurt Youth Summit. So we are encouraging schools across Orange County to bring students from their school. Schools can bring up to 20 students to the summit, and students and the chaperone can work through workshops throughout the day. Teens have a choice of 2 workshops. We're offering about 5 through the day, and they can take 2 of them. And it's an opportunity for teens to engage in the conversation, to really immerse themselves in this work and in our mission, and have some more education around this.
So if you wanted to go, it would be through your school district? Like,
Yes.
say your school district wasn't participating, you still have to go, you're out of luck, or could someone freelance it, or how would that work?
So youth who, if a youth goes to a school that is not bringing a large group, they can still come, but
Okay.
they need to have a chaperone.
Okay.
So that's why we encourage students to come through their school, because
Gotcha.
they do have to be chaperoned to attend.
Now, is that a school day, or is that a weekend day?
It's a school day.
Oh, it's a school day. So they would do that as part of their regular school day.
Correct. Yes.
Is Menacing, is the Menacing School District involved in this?
They have been invited. I have not received their registration yet, but that doesn't mean that they are not going to.
So the question was, just we were getting it thrown to us from the sidelines, is the Menacing Valley School District participating? And that was the answer was, they've been invited, we have not gotten a registration back. So I don't know who in the school does those things go through guidance, or is that?
Sometimes. So we invite a lot of teachers when we go in for our regular programming, and I don't work in the school, but I believe teachers are bringing it to their principal to get approved, because they also have to get a bus for transportation,
Sure,
so the
sure.
principal has to approve that. But we've invited teachers, guidance, and principals throughout the county.
So-
And Sullivan County is welcome as well.
We're not sure about Menacing, but we can get that answer, and if you are watching or looking for the information, we can say, go see Mr. Hauk at the principal's office. I'm sure he'll have all the information, or he at least can point you to who may have the information, and I'll follow up as well with him. So most of your programs, it doesn't matter if you're a teen or you're an adult. They're kind of geared the same way.
They are, yeah. There are definitely factors that we that are present for teens that aren't present for adults. Like adult relationships, we see more financial abuse that isn't happening as much in teen
Sure.
relationships, just because of where they are in their life. But we do help them in very similar ways.
And this crosses economic, social, racial,
Absolutely.
balance. There's no one group that's more susceptible than another.
Absolutely, domestic violence does not discriminate.
What, I'm just reading for changing things up a little bit. So Maria gives me my questions and I go through them, but so this is something like it's a stressful job for you. So what do you do to de-stress from being around this?
I have a dog that I get to
already
come
cut
home
it
to
all
every
up.
day. We hike, we go through the woods, we play, but really my biggest de-stress is my dog at the end of the day.
You like to jog?
I do, yeah.
How much do you jog?
Not that far, a couple miles.
And that's just enough to get the endorphins and everything clear in your head.
Yeah.
I would think it's similar to sometimes, in police work we deal with, you have that bad day where you deal with, some kind of horrific incident, whatever it might be, and you need to have that balance in life
Sure.
to try to get out of that. So if you could pick one place in the world you'd like to visit that you haven't been to yet, and money wasn't an obstacle, so it's not a financial obstacle, where would you go and why?
I've always wanted to go to Ireland.
forever,
Just
you
because it's so beautiful, and my family is from Ireland. I've always wanted to see where we came from and go over there.
And you've never been there before?
I've never been. I really want to go.
Yeah.
Now, I know a few people have been there and they say it's great. You just gotta be careful driving because they drive on the different side of the other side of the road. So, do you like to watch television?
I do.
And what do you like to watch, or do you binge watch?
One of my favorite
Don't
shows
say
is-
House of Cards.
I was not going to say House of Cards. No. My favorite show is The Office.
Oh, Starry.
I watch that.
Never seen that.
No.
Never.
It's funny. It's funny if you like dry humor.
You know what it is? I find it's difficult to find time for me to every week I can. And I know people DVR stuff, but I just cannot find the time to do that.
That's
So that's
fair.
great that you fit
Just
fit
by
that
listening
in.
to it, I
I
found
find
that
we were talking beforehand, and I
couple of
refer in.
mistakes
Sometimes
already
like you're
talking to
going
my
from place to
kids.
place to place to place,
Sure.
and when you get a free moment, like you just can't mentally get into those things. So it's
Just
great
sit.
that Do you like movies? What was the last movie you saw?
The last movie that I saw.
See that you didn't have that answer beforehand, so
I
now I'm
didn't-
making your
you
thing.
didn't
Your
ask
question.
me. The last movie I saw was actually the new live-action Aladdin, the Disney movie.
Oh, that's cool. Now, why did you go to that?
No, we didn't. I didn't go to it. We watched it
Oh, at
just in
home.
our
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
My partner has Disney Plus because he wanted to watch all the new Star Wars things.
Oh, that's cool.
But so we watched the live-action Aladdin. It was actually really good.
So it's a good thing my wife doesn't watch this because she would learn that we have Disney Plus. Only because the day it was coming out, everybody was talking about it. I'm like, I'm signing up for this. Like, so I'm someone that shouldn't be trusted with the with that because. So actually, I got a good deal. So we save money because you get ESPN Plus as part of it and Hulu. So
Oh, yeah.
I did the package. So it's like getting it almost for free.
I like
You
that.
know, yeah. So books. You like to read.
I do like to read.
What was
Yeah.
the last book that you read?
The last book I read was Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell is my favorite author, and this book is actually, it's about why we as humans are so bad at telling when a stranger is lying to us.
Okay.
And it's about reading people, and it actually dissects a lot of police interactions and car stops and like what happens and kind of the evolution of de-escalation techniques when they're
Sure.
like teaching that to police. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
What, Amy Cuddy, have you read Presence? It's a book you gotta read.
Yeah.
I don't, she doesn't work for me, but everybody that I talk to, it's a great book. It's called Presence. Amy Cuddy wrote it. And she did the TED Talk where she did the Superwoman Make Yourself Big and all the Superwoman pose. And it's just a great book. And if you're really like, I am a big Audible person because I'm driving a lot. And I have her book and I bought it and I play it over and over again because it just talks about how, you know, presence and how to make yourself big and how to make, fake it till you make it. That's really like her saying, like she started that. So it's a good book. Podcast, you listen to
I
any
love
podcast. Like,
podcasts.
what's your, don't tell me Malcolm's your favorite podcast too?
He does have one. It's
He
called
does.
Revisionist History.
It is. And someone just told me about it. It's kind of funny. Last week, and they downloaded it onto my phone. I gave someone else my phone code, and they downloaded it, and I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it yet.
It
but-
is really, really good. I think it's in season one of my favorite episodes. I think it's called The Foot Soldier.
Okay.
It's about a statue in Alabama and the story about how the statue was created and how the statue and the picture that it's based off of tell two completely different stories.
Gotcha.
It's a really cool episode. That is a really good podcast if you have the
What's
time.
your other next podcast that you like?
I
That's the new thing. I think people
I love
more into
podcasts.
podcasts as opposed to TV shows now.
I
I
listen to
think
a lot.
like, it's a
I'll be
whole.
right there.
Me too.
I have a 45-minute drive to work, so I listen to a lot of
perfect.
podcasts.
It's like a perfect time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Because then I
it's
just
great.
it's like one there and one home.
Right, sure.
I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. There's one called True Crime Obsessed.
Okay.
It's very funny. They watch true crime documentaries and then like do kind of like a synopsis and commentary
really?
on them.
So later you have to give me that one. Let's have to check that out.
It's really good. It's funny. They're fun.
Yeah, there's a few that I go through. Yeah, my problem is like I'll get into a podcast. Like I got into a podcast. The next thing you know, like I'm getting the book and I'm getting the mini series.
That's how they pull you in.
They do. They pull you in, and it's good. But yeah, I think the podcast is the new thing.
I think so too.
Sometimes though, I've driven around the corner a few times at my house because I'm like, I know I'm at the end, but I know I can't just turn it off. And once you get home, it's done. You know, you can't really walk around with your phone or earphones. So.
I've sat in my driveway to finish one before.
Yeah. Are there any questions that I didn't ask about teen violence? Switching back to the topic that maybe I should have asked or we missed or something that you'd like to add?
So for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, we have a lot of workshops and events planned. You can check out our Facebook page, Fearless Hudson Valley, or Safe Homes of Orange County. Either one will bring you to our page, but we have a workshop coming up called an escalation workshop, where we screen a film about a college couple and the escalation of their abusive relationship, and we dissect what happened and the signs and how to recognize. And at the end of the month, we have a digital safety workshop where it's geared for parents and their teens to come and find out, how do I keep myself safe online, and how do I keep my youth safe online? How do I make sure that my youth is safe? So I really encourage people to come to both of those workshops.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And they're free. They're in Newark.
So that just made me think of something. So your website's still, if you go to the old address, Safe Homes of Orange County or Hudson Valley?
Orange County. Safe Homes of Orange County. Yeah.
.org, and that'll still take you to the new website, which is fearless.org.
It's fearlesshv.org. The website is currently happening. That switch is happening right
Sure.
now. So you may see like some Safe Home stuff.
Sure.
You may see some Fearless stuff.
I just don't want people to be confused if they go there and be like, wait a minute, am I in the right? Because
We're the
sometimes
same place.
sometimes you do that. Like you'll
Yep.
hear like only a part of a web address, and I'll punch it in. I'm like, I don't think this is what I wanted. So so either way, it'll work out for you.
Yes, they are forwarded to each other.
What is the thing you like most about your job? You seem to have a passion for this. What is it that you like the most?
I love doing prevention education. I've always wanted to work in some sort of prevention field. I love being able to educate youth and going into youth spaces. The youth have such good questions for us. We go in, we were just at Liberty High School talking to their National Honor Society, and the questions that they were asking us were just so they were really involved and really informed questions that they were genuinely interested in, and like wanted to know, how can I make a difference and how can I get more involved? And so it's really uplifting when you're working with that youth who just really want to help and they just want to know. But I believe that prevention education is the best way to make a difference.
What's the worst part of your job?
The
Don't say your boss. She's probably watching.
That's a really hard question. I really like my job. I think that the most difficult part of my job is when one of our clients is murdered by their intimate partner. That creates a really hard day in our office.
That's frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
More than frustrating.
It is, yeah.
Sometimes, like, it's the bureaucracy of the system that's frustrating too. Like, you know, we see it where we deal with someone trying to get them help, just in this situation, and then it can't happen for so many reasons, and you have a bad outcome. Maybe it's a homicide, but maybe it's even an assault or something that is less than a homicide, and it's just, that's the frustrating part. Like, you can almost touch the solution, but you can't get to it. So I get it, and then we see it on not just with domestic violence, but in a bunch of different places.
Absolutely.
And it's just sometimes we've set up these bureaucracies, I think, just to protect people's jobs instead of really, we lose focus sometimes of what the end game is. So
we do often see some of our clients who are overlooked by system after system, and they end up falling through the cracks, and they're let down by agencies and systems as a whole, and it's frustrating, but we try to be the best voice we can for those people and access safety as best we can.
have you been seeing, and this is going off topic, so I apologize for that, but I was just thinking about, we've had the discovery changes, law changes, we've had the bail reform changes. Now that we were with you guys back in October, it didn't happen yet, and we were talking about, hey, what might happen. Now we're into February. Have you seen any situations, or has anything come up where these laws have kind of hindered what we can do to help victims of domestic violence, or victims in general?
I don't think I have a concrete answer. I think it's too soon to really see the effects. I do.
Okay.
I think that we will be seeing some effects happening. We do have some victims that we're trying to help that are more fearful because of some of these changes. We've seen people after their arrest be released same day and then go back immediately to the victim and assault them again. But I think it's too soon to tell what the long-term effects of that are going to be.
And I guess the positive for me on that is last week I met with Senator Metzger, Jen Metzger, who's our senator here in the town of Mount Hope, and she is committed and she's made some proposed changes to both the discovery and the bail reform laws because they've identified some things that maybe that weren't, as out there or they didn't see coming. So hopefully that, because the end result I think for all of us is we want victims to feel safe enough to come forward to try to help them. And sometimes I think people don't really realize that when you make some of these changes, some of the unintended consequences, I guess what I was looking for. So hopefully we're going to see some changes that'll benefit and make it so victims aren't afraid to come forward. So great. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
This has been great, and it's been really informational for me as well as I'm sure the people that are watching. And I apologize again. We had a couple hiccups this morning,
That's okay.
and the ice cream cooler keeps kicking on, which is funny. So, thanks everyone for joining us. Next month we're gonna be working on a guest. I'm not ready to say who it is yet, but if you have any suggestions on things that you would like to see us talk about in future monthly episodes, you can also give me a call. If you have any other questions about anything that's going on in the town of Mount Hope, within the police department or otherwise, you can also give us a call. The other thing we want to really promote, we're having the Women's Self-Defense Seminar, which is on Saturday, March 21st. So if you go to our Facebook page, you can sign up for that, and we have Chris Coyle coming, and he's going to do a demonstration, and there should be that should be great. So if you would like to come to that, so Saturday, March 21st, and that's going to be the first event at the new youth center, which is behind the police center station on Baker Street. At least that's the plan, and hopefully we'll be able to go forward with that. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And if you have anything you need, give me a call at 845-386-8886 or email me at chief@mounthopepolice.com. Thank you, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.